this Manhattan hotel became the first ever hotel tokenized on the blockchain. Hedera was the one to do it. We're going to dive into these details. Plus, is Hedera about to get its own prediction market? It's actually a little more complicated than that. We will dive into that news. This no-code agent tool on Hedera looks amazing. Now, all-time volume on Saucer Swap just hit this new record, and Hedera just added batch transactions. With the big news, we are going to be following this New York City hotel right on the New York City skyline, and the first New York hotel tokenized on Hedera. We're going to dive into all that news on today's Frugal BC. By the way, guys, if you like this stuff, please hit that like and subscribe button. As you know, you don't have to smash it. You can just press it gently. We're totally cool with that on this channel. That's how we do things. By the way, since this is not an Algorand video, we will give a brief shout out to our sponsors, Haystack, the trading app that makes things so much easier on Algorand, and Marcus Aurelius, an NFT and meme coin project on the Algorand blockchain. Thanks to both of our sponsors. Channel members get these videos before anyone else, so check that out in the join tab, plus special videos for people who join at higher tiers, so check that out. But enough about all that stuff. Why don't we get into this Hedera news? We got a lot of great stuff on the agenda today, and starting off, is Hedera about to get its own prediction market? And this comes from Predar, maybe Predar, I think. Predar? Looks like Predar. Building the sports prediction layer of Web3 powered by Hedera. At Predar, we believe the next frontier of sports fandom is prediction as engagement, where every play, shot, or knockout becomes a tradable market. Now, that's really interesting. I kind of wonder how exactly that would work, since a lot of that stuff happens. I mean, you don't know a knockout is going to happen until a knockout actually happens, unless you're trading specifically on a knockout being a possibility, maybe. Anyway, let's dive in. Predar is building on Hedera, the world's fastest, fairest public ledger. I want to get to the part where how this is going to work. Fans can predict outcomes, stake their beliefs, and participate as events unfold, transforming their insights into tradable opportunities. Every match, prop, and player performance becomes an open on-chain market where sentiment, skill, and speed converge. Now, understand, by the way, why this can work, because the speed and low cost of Hedera allows this to happen, which is pretty cool. And they kind of explain why that, which is cool. They have a pred token that they're either coming out with. Is it out now? Similar to, so we've covered Alpha Arcade on Algorand. It's been working great. Just hit record volumes. That'll be in our next Algorand video. So there's definitely a market for this. Alpha Arcade really showed that on their platform. So I definitely think this is a good idea. I want to read a little bit more about how this works. Streaming made it instant. Social media made it global. Prediction as engagement makes it interactive, turning they're talking about that. How? Yeah, they just keep, says, imagine calling a moment before it happens, staking your conviction and watching it unfold in real time, verified, fair, and on-chain. No odds table, no casinos, just markets born from emotion and information colliding at the speed of sport. Yeah, I mean, this whole long thing, and they don't really explain super well how it's actually going to work. When you do something in that level of speed, like it takes a while for markets to form, and it seems like they would need a huge base of people before that would be realistic. But, who knows? I do think prediction markets in general are a great idea. I think they're great for the blockchain. I think Alpha Arcade is doing well on Algorand, and I could see a prediction market doing really well on Hedera. My guess is they would start with like some pretty standard prediction markets, and then as they grow their user base, they can start adding this. And by the way, they didn't really say this about Predar, but the Predar coin, the Pred coin, but Alpha actually gives you a cut of the fees in so that you're in USDC payments. So if you hold their coin, you actually get a cut of the market, which is pretty cool. A good way to buy the shovels, not the gold rush, if that makes sense. I don't know if you're like me, but I love AI, and I've been super into trying to find ways to make it work for me. So I'm actually really excited about this no-code AI tool, agent tool on Hedera, and I want to dive into this because I think this is really neat. So I came across this post, and this is a long video. This is part 2. This is actually part 2 of a pretty long video, 2-hour video. So obviously we're not going to be able to take in all the videos, but it's from N8N, which is a plugin that allows you to build blockchain-powered workflows and AI agents with no-code, low-code experience. And I would put myself in the low-code for sure. Specifically workflow automation, which is all that stuff like I'm really working on is when it comes, I want workflow automation. Introducing AI Workflow Builder Beta turns prompts into living workflows, generate nodes, logic, and structure from text, and shape and ship your vision faster, which is cool because I have all these ideas of how to make my workflow better. And I find that it can be pretty tough to find AI solutions for them. Sometimes it's like on the verge of being helpful, but not quite. And so having the ability to actually create the tools would be super helpful. Definitely going to be keeping an eye on this, going to follow them for sure. And yeah, great idea. Let's dive into something next. You guys know I love Saucer Swap, probably my favorite, would you call it a DEX? A DEX on Hedera, but they just hit a new record for all-time volume. What is it? It's going to be a B, I'll tell you that. It's not going to be an M, it's going to be a B. Let's dive in. Saucer Swap has officially surpassed 5 billion USD in all-time value. That's 5 billion with a B, by the way. Thank you to every trader, LP, and builder in the Hedera ecosystem who made this possible. Here's to the next billion. That's pretty awesome, I will say. Pretty awesome indeed. Some people dissing on the Sauce token. I have to say it's performed pretty well last fall. I would keep an eye out for it. I own a little bit myself from using the platform. It's cool, you know. But that's a big volume level, and you know, hopefully they get to 10 billion next. You know, I think they will. It's a pretty well made platform, I have to say. A new feature on Hedera is the ability to add batch transactions. It just happened. Let's dive in a little more. Batch transactions are now live on Hedera. By the way, just posted this yesterday morning. So enabling developers to execute complex multi-step operations as a single unit without risk of partial failure. Very helpful. Atomic programmability meets native performance. No smart contracts required. You can dive in if you go to Hedera and find this post. You can dive into to their blog and find all the information on it. But I just think that's great news. Good to see. Let's move on to our final item, and most important, I think, and that is the first New York City skyline property is now tokenized, and it happened on Hedera. That is with a company called Red Swan, which does digital assets, RWAs on real estate, tokenizes real estate, which is really cool. First off, I came across this post. History was made in New York City real estate this week. The first building on the iconic New York City skyline has officially been tokenized. Huge moment for real-world assets shared during the Red Swan Digital Summit yesterday, alongside a keynote from the Mooch, Anthony Scaramucci. The setting for Red Swan Digital Real Estate Summit, the penthouse of the very building making history, the hotel on Rivington. The conversation about RWA couldn't have been more real. This landmark move by Red Swan unlocks new liquidity and fractional ownership for one of the world's most valuable markets. A new beating heart for crypto in New York City? I think so. The choice of Hedera as the L1 was strategic. It's a network specifically designed for the high bar of regulated financial markets, where enterprise-grade security and performance are absolute requirements. The trust layer for the future of finance. So they asked which building. It was actually in the follow-up tweet. You can see it in the background here. We pull it up. I mean, it's a little zoomed in, but so a lot of you guys know that I have done a lot of work on Lofty AI. I've used it for a while. I have some issues, so I haven't dived deep into how Red Swan Digital works. Lofty, which came earlier than Red Swan Digital, had an AMM, an automatic market maker. And the automatic market maker would often depeg the price of the token from its fractionalized value. So in other words, the property was going up in value, but the token itself was on a separate market because of the AMM. So you ended up getting half the value if you wanted to sell it through the AMM. You could list it for higher, but the odds that someone's going to buy it when they can just buy it through the AMM at a much cheaper price is pretty low. So it didn't quite work the way I think people might have hoped it did. I hope this one pans out a little better. I hope they learn those lessons from Lofty. By the way, the CEO of Lofty is Max Bell, and this is Greg Bell, which is pretty interesting, I think. I should probably give him a follow. He seems to be an HBAR guy and a Bitcoin guy. I love all those. But good luck to them. And I'm alarmed, by the way, to see that ISO 20022 is trending, because that is one of the biggest misnomers in crypto. There's no such thing as an ISO 20022 compliant crypto. That doesn't exist. There's no compliance standard. It has nothing to do with the blockchain. dApps that are built for cross-border payments on the blockchain would probably employ that messaging standard, but it has nothing to do inherently with the blockchain. So just want to give that little tidbit. But yep, there's the mooch. I don't know if you guys know, I was very close to interviewing the Mooch. Was in talks with his team prior to Decipher 2022, which is the Algorand conference. He was going to be a speaker. And then the whole thing with Sam Bankman-Fried blew up because he was going to be on the panel with Sam Bankman-Fried. Whole thing got canceled in terms of the speech, and no interview for me, but maybe someday, huh? That is all our Hedera news for today. I hope you guys got something out of it. I think we had a lot of great news in the Hedera segment. Plenty of stuff to talk about. Otherwise, I know the markets are struggling right now. It's been an interesting time, but I think it's really just a temporary pullback. I definitely used the time to buy some dips, and I hope you do too. Not financial advice, but just telling you what I'm doing. So anyway, I'm Frugal BC. I hope you do well out there. Stay safe, and I'll see you in the future.